Today on Spider-Man 2099, it's all over. This is Comicstorian. I take your favorite comic books, I break them down into a synopsis, I cut out the B plots, the fluff, the extra stuff, and we give you an audio drama of your favorite storylines. This allows you to keep up with them, so you can go buy the next issue or know which ones you want to add to your collection. All alterations to the panel, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. When we last left off with Spider-Man 2099, he had a new direction and a new purpose. He's in charge of Alchemax. A brand new Venom was out on the loose. The city of New Atlantis was going against him, and the series was canceled. Yep, I'm not joking. We only have 2 issues to wrap this entire series up, and here is the finale to Spider-Man 2099. How they're going to wrap all of those loose plot threads up. After some time had passed, Spider-Man returned to Oldtown, shocked to see it flooded once more. He swings through the air, diving into the water, his enhanced vision allowing him to see through the murky depths. His eyes widening at the number of bodies floating throughout it. He swims towards the church of Father Jennifer, hoping that maybe he can save some of the people that he cares about. And he reaches for the heavy doors, using all of his strength to pull against the pressure of the water. But it's no good. He turns his head, spying a fallen Flyboy hoverbike nearby. He activates the engine, slamming it into the doors, exploding them inward. He strangely enough calls out to Father Jennifer underwater, but his eyes widen as he sees her body floating nearby. Her chest is moving. No sign of respiration. Miguel thinks to himself as he checks the body. "That's right, Webhead! She's dead!" Another voice who can speak underwater shouts at him from behind, a blast of energy slamming into his back. "Not you! Not now! Not the Goblin!" Miguel thinks to himself as he turns, finding the Goblin perched on a statue of Thor. "You could have prevented this from happening, but you didn't! All this death and blood is on your hands, Spider-Man!" He shouts and leaps at Miguel, slamming into Spider-Man, pushing them both through the water. They're both unaware of another dark shape that is swimming out of the shadows, grabbing Father Jennifer and carrying her away. The winged man breaks free of the church, flying up and out of the water, carrying Father Jennifer towards the Alchemax headquarters. Meanwhile, in the Uptown building, Tyler Stone is moving through Alchemax, aware that the city is already flooding and that the planet is heading towards global catastrophe. "I intend on taking full advantage of this," he thinks to himself, and he stops to scan his retina at a security point, smiling at the money well spent as the system acknowledges him as Miguel O'Hara. The doors slide open to reveal to him the man on the inside, a security captain. Man looks at Stone, surprised that Stone still wants to go to the Martian colony after all of the disappearances. "That just means that there is more room for me," Stone notes, checking the logs for the next transport off-world. Meanwhile, the Goblin is still throwing Miguel around the water. "Lugs going to burst!" Spider-Man thinks to himself as he manages to twist and shoot a web at the Goblin, kicking away from the villain, swimming furiously for the surface. He breaks out of the water, taking in large lungfuls of air. "How sweet this is!" he gasps, pulling himself up onto a nearby building, but the Goblin is right behind him, flying up and out of the water. "Don't you see, Miguel? I can keep this up all day! I'm bigger than you, stronger, smarter, always have been, always will be," the Goblin shouts. Spider-Man turns, swinging away, trying to keep some distance between him and the Goblin. Shocked that the villain even knows his real name, the Goblin shouts that there is no escape as he launches more energy blasts at Miguel. But the wall crawler quickly twists and avoids them, flipping over the edge of the building, sticking to the side. "You think I'm gonna fall for that? I know you just dropped to a lower bridge." The Goblin snaps as he peers over the side, but Miguel is waiting for him, kicking out, cracking him in the head. The Goblin hits the ground. Miguel reaches for his mask. "Now let's take off that mask of yours to see who you really are." The Goblin snarls, punching him hard in the face. "Not only am I your equal, I am your better. Better than Miguel O'Hara. Better than Spider-Man." "What's the deal with you, nutcase? Why are you being so competitive with my alter ego?" Spider-Man wonders as he looks down, seeing the pieces of a shattered mirror nearby. He reaches for it as the Goblin launches another energy blast, using the mirror to deflect it back at him, remembering that the Goblin's energy can cause distortions and hallucinations. "No! What are you doing?" the Goblin hisses as he begins to stagger. "Just performing a little experiment, gruesome." Spider-Man tells him, reaching out, pulling away the Goblin's mask, and his eyes widen in shock as he quickly backs up. "You were always the favorite," the Goblin whispers, and Miguel realizes who this is. "I don't believe this. Gabe, is that you? I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do." The Goblin leaps into the air. "Haven't you done enough? You've taken everything. Everyone that was special to me. Just get the shock out of my life, Miguel." He bellows as he flies away, and Miguel stands there for a moment, not sure what to do. And he finally remembers Father Jennifer's body leaping back into the water, swimming once more towards the church, and as he searches until his lungs burn, finally has to give up and returns to the surface, promising himself that he needs to look on the bright side of everything that he just discovered. It's not like my day can get any worse, he thinks to himself, and as he heads to the break in the water, he stares up at a gathering armada of New Atlantis ships. New Atlantis will rise again! They proclaim as the Alchemex flyboys are gathering to fight them. Damn it, me and my big mouth. He sighs. Miguel begins to watch as the two forces collide with each other, weapon blasts sizzling around the city, and he reaches out shooting a web line, swinging up to join the fray. When will I learn to not even get out of bed in the morning? He thinks to himself as he keeps swinging closer to the Alchemex tower, but he's suddenly stopped by a blue-skinned Atlantean. The tower belongs to Lord Atuma, monarch of Atlantis. Attempt to enter it and you will be executed. The Atlantean warrior shouts, trying to spear Spider-Man with his trident. Ouch! Watch where you're poking that thing, I bruise easily. Miguel jokes, trying to distract his opponent with humor, but he grabs the shaft of the trident, flipping over the warrior's head, continuing forward, leaping onto a fallen Atlantean sky sled, moving closer to the building. Not much for group hugs myself. About time I took a look at what's going on in the old office, Miguel says as another warrior is blocking his path. Hey, big guy, what say you step aside and let me through? Spider-Man asks him, but the warrior begins to bellow about how the surface dwellers have encroached upon the sovereignty of New Atlantis for too long. It is the sacred burial ground of Namor, the Submariner. So I'll take that as a no, Spider-Man notes as he leaps at the warrior. I don't know how to break it to you, but this is all a newsflash to me. He says as they begin to fight. The warrior continues to shout about how all of the surface dwellers will be killed, throwing Spider-Man to the floor, pulling out a large knife. But the rounds suddenly chew through the Atlantean, killing him. Ugh, that's nasty, Spider-Man says as he looks up at the chewed up body. I don't know who fired them, but they're not standard issue Alchemex. He then turns to see the Vulture standing nearby, Father Jennifer clutched in his claws. They're property of the Vulture! And you can plainly see from the scraps that I'm in the middle of a surf and turf dinner. He motions to the half-eaten bodies that now surround him. Meanwhile, several floors below Alchemex, Conchetta rallies the security officers around her, setting up barricades to stop the Atlantean forces, her weapon being fired into a swelling mass of warriors. The guards question what they should do, but Conchetta has the answer. Let me spell it out for you. Unless we stop them, none of us is getting out of here alive, she shouts, and she takes careful aim, but her weapon clicks empty. Oh, shock, she sighs, gripping the blaster like a club. All right, boys, let's go get them. Up above them all, Spider-Man continues with another fight. Let go of the priest, Vulture. She's never done anything to you, he hisses, but the Vulture lowers his talons to her, reminding Spider-Man that Father Jennifer has constantly stopped his schemes to rule downtown. Then take me instead. I'm just as responsible for getting in your way, Spider-Man reminds him, and the villain sneers. Yes, you are, but I doubt you're as succulent as she is, Miguel O'Hara. He smiles, Miguel's eyes widen as he tries a joke to throw Vulture off of his secret identity. Don't be coy with me, O'Hara. Let's just say a little Goblin told me, the Vulture says, snapping his arm out, firing his metal talons at the wall crawler. Spidey flips to avoid them, but a round punches through his shoulder as the Vulture leans forward, explaining to Spider-Man that nothing matters anymore, that he rigged the whole building to blow up. In less than 10 minutes, this whole place is gonna blow sky high! But Spidey webs him up in the mouth, leaping forward, kicking him hard in the chest, knocking him out the window. Vulture plummets away before taking flight. This isn't over! He shouts, and Spidey turns back to see Father Jennifer getting to her feet. Are you okay? He asks, and she tells him that she is, reaching out and pulling the talon out of his shoulder. Ow! Watch it, Padre! That hurts! Sorry, I was never very good at first aid, she tells him, and the clock continues to tick as the two of them make their way through the building. Father Jennifer commenting on the carnage that has been unleashed on the city and Alchemex as they pass over the bodies of security guards and Atlantean warriors until they finally come to Miguel's office. The door slides open and a warrior is thrown out. Well, I'll be shocked if it ain't none other than good Mamacita, Miguel jokes as they stare at Conchetta, now armed with several blasters and Atlantean weapons. I expect to be paid overtime for this. She nods at her son, and the three of them begin to push through the building, heading for the starport deeper inside. Meanwhile, Tyler Stone has finally arrived at the ship that will take him off planet. But as he lowers the ramp, a blaster rips through his hover chair. He struggles up from the wreckage, unable to move. Ribs broken, unable to breathe. He gasps, looking at the towering Atlantean warrior. For shock's sake, don't you know who I am? He gasps, and the warrior nods at him. Of course I know who you are. The executioner always knows his victims. And he lowers his blaster, taking aim. Pull that trigger, Atlantean. I warn you. Tyler begins to say, but the warrior stops him. Cease your pathetic posturing, human. Prepare to die, he says quietly, but the door slides open, revealing Spider-Man. Tyler, get down! Spidey shouts, leaping forward, but he's too slow and the blaster goes off, ripping through Tyler's chest. Spider-Man hits the warrior again and again until he is no longer moving, but even he knows that Tyler couldn't have survived a blast at that range. Outside of the room, Jennifer and Conchetta prepare to follow Spider-Man, but a blast rips through Conchetta's chest. She stumbles, falling to the floor, sliding down. No! Jennifer shouts, turning and firing her weapon at the Atlantean warrior, and she leans over Conchetta, telling the woman to hold on until they can get to the hospital. Don't bother, Jenny. I'm not going anywhere. Conchetta gasps, blood beginning to pool beneath her. Tell my boys that I love them. She gasps before also dying. Jennifer pauses for a moment before rushing into the room, finding Miguel cradling the body of his father. She's gone, isn't she? Miguel asks over his shoulder. Yes, I'm sorry, Jennifer tells him. First your mother, now me. Hell of a day for you, boy. Tyler gasps and coughs. Miguel orders Jennifer to get on the ship, promising to be there in a second, and as Tyler dies in his arms, he lays his mask on his father's chest, promising him that they are nothing alike, and he plans on using his power and influence to try and save the world. He quickly runs onto the ship, allowing it to take off mere moments before Alchemex goes up in flames, and Miguel watches from the window. And so, yet another totally bizarre chapter in the life of Miguel O'Hara, the once reluctant hero known as Spider-Man, comes to a close. I wonder what the next one's going to be like, he says quietly. And that concludes all of the original Spider-Man 2099 stuff. Now, some of the loose plot threads were answered in a few one-off storylines that came out years later, but it looks like we're finally going to get a conclusion to this on the anniversary of the 2099 universe, as they're going to start a storyline in 2099, picking up where this left off. Miguel O'Hara going to save the planet. At least that's what I understand. So make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and turn on the notification bell so you know when we start covering that part, because it starts soon, in like now in 2022. And thank you guys for sticking around here for the entire Spider-Man 2099 series. Next week, we start Green Lantern, unless I can find answers to some of these Spider-Man questions. See you next time.